Hello YouTube, thank you for tuning into my channel. In this video we are going to be talking about the Tarot, Lesson 1. If you are new, please watch the introductory course as it gives some history and some background. Might be boring, but it's informative. Now, there are 78 cards in a tarot deck, 22 major arcana, 56 lesser arcana. Now, arcana is basically meaning secrets or mysteries, okay? So you have 22 major secrets and the 56 minor secrets, and the minor secrets are also separated into court cards and suits. Now, when you first start out learning tarot decks, you're going to find out that there are billions of books out there, and almost none of them have exactly the same interpretations. Why? Because people assign them. You have traditional meanings, and then you have extra meanings. Okay? There's several different ways to read the cards. So this can be scary a little bit when you're trying to, learn something. You're going to like, well, it takes a while to learn meanings of 78 cards. I don't want to spend a whole year or a couple of months, whatever, learning cards, find out that this technique don't really work for me. So I'm going to explain some lenses. I call them lenses, kind of like lenses on a magnifying glass. But when you look at the cards, you look at the cards through these lenses, and learning them becomes very quick, almost zero study. And this is how we do it. Because each time you look at a lens, these multiple lenses, and use them, or techniques, it's like a bright light being filtered through these lenses and being refined every single time you look. Every single time the light goes to the lens, it becomes a laser. So every single time you read these cards, keep in mind these key factors, and afterwards your intuition, which is also a part of reading these cards, will start taking effect. Now, we're going to start with this card right here. Now, this is number 1. Okay, now the number 1 card. Now, this is the Rider-Waite deck. I definitely suggest you use a deck almost like this, at least, or the same kind. Now, this has a Fool in front of it, which I'll get to that later. That's numbered 0. But for the first lens, we're going to learn the suits, all right, and what they mean. And I'm going to use this guy as a template. First of all, the Magician. If you notice, he has his hand up in the air with a candle burning at both ends. This is a hint. He's pointing down. This is a hint. He is saying, as above, as below. Okay, so keep this in mind, that all cards have dual meanings, positive, negative. Even the elemental parts are going to have active and passive. Okay, but the secrets to the suits is right there on his table. First of all, I like calling them elemental weapons because I am a ceremonial magician, and that just sounds pretty cool. But as a lot of people call them, so ceremonial magicians call them elemental weapons, and each one of these on his table, if you are a witch and a practicing witch or just a studying witch or whatever, it's pretty witchy. He is casting. He's about to cast a spell. He has the 4 elements on his table. Well, actually 5 elements on his table. The table represents spirit, so does the magician. The magician represents spirit, brings it all together. Okay? The table brings the 4 elements together. The magician brings the 4 elements together. And just a little hint, the Fool, the 0 card, is basically kind of spirit. But we'll get into that. Now, The cups. Now, in some tarot decks, they'll be reading as chalices, but they're the same thing. Same thing with the uh, pentagram over here. They call them pentacles, discs, or coins. And then, of course, in ceremonial magic and many forms of traditions of Wicca and witchcraft, two different things, but that's a different video. You have the wand, which represents the fire element, and you have, which sometimes will be called staves or staves, rods, and of course the dagger there, the athame or the elemental air dagger. Now, I've seen some tarot decks have them in reverse. That meaning, sometimes, and don't go by that. Don't go by that. Everybody goes by what I'm. Most people go by what I'm saying. The suits represent the four elements as that. Okay, so cups, water; disc, earth, or the pentacles, earth; the rods, fire; and the air dagger. The dagger represents air or swords, air. Okay, it's right there on his table. So you got to know the elements and what they mean. The which helps, of course. Now, so you have the rods, which rolls over fire. So that's passion, that's action. So a lot of the things that you do with that when you are doing action is interaction. So this can be said, maybe even rule over social constructs, friendship, and so forth, lust, passion, depending on. Okay, now, of course, the coins represent earth, which is usually everything physical, money, security. Okay, the cups, love, deep emotions. Now, fire can represent emotions too, but it's usually the fiery emotions, such as anger, such as lust. Okay, but it's the other side of the coin of the intuitive, compassion, and loving form of water. Okay, and then of course the daggers or the swords, depending on uh, your deck, represent the element of air, which is consciousness, thinking, rational thought. Okay, so that is the first thing you need to learn about the suit cards. And then finally, before I move on, there are 10 cards in the suit cards, and then you have the court cards, which are start from page, jack, queen, king. We'll get into that too, but 1 through 10 of the major arcana can be said that they have an influence on the following number that matches them. So the magician has some influence over the aces. The ace of cups, the ace of wands, and so forth, okay? So, keyword, new beginnings. Starting out, the beginning of the great work, the beginning of all things. So, technically, you can say that if you have the ace of cups, which, let me pause this and let me go ahead and pull them out for you. And here they are. The ace of wands, okay? And again, an ace is a new beginning. So that's the general meaning of the new beginning. And what does it represent? A fiery aspect. So depending on the other lens, such as the person's question. So the person asking the question, by the way, is called a querent. All right. The querent will ask a question. Say they're going to ask about love. Well, and you get this card. Well, it's not cups. So how do you interpret it if it's not about love? Because this is about fiery aspects, action, a new action? Well, you look through that lens from the current, and you can say, well, fiery is passionate, so a new passionate love, right? So you don't necessarily need this card to represent new love, even though that's exactly what it represents. This is just telling you one of the aspects. Okay, so you look through the lens of the element, the basic elemental meanings, the number of the card, in contrast with the magician, because he is new beginnings. So if they get this one and the same question about love, you can maybe pull from it, well, it is the new, the love has a new mental challenge. You have to, maybe it's an intellectual attraction. All right. Just throwing this out. These cards have multiple meanings and can be interpreted in multiple different ways. I'm just trying to give you a few examples. But again, basically, all new beginnings. Maybe a new job. Okay. And of course, there are reverse cards. Starting out, I don't suggest using the reversal meanings because it's more to learn at them. So you need to start off small. But just to give you kind of a hint, if it's a new beginning, if it's reversed, then that means a failed beginning, a temporary setback. Okay, but that's basically how you do with the elementals. Now in the next video, I'm going to give a little bit of hermetic, esoteric knowledge, and the four cards. The four cards are very important. The Fool through the Empress, and that's in the next video. And then, of course, we are going to be talking about these later on in more detail. All right. This is just to learn the elemental aspects and give you some basic examples that we are going to build on later. Thank you for watching.